Whether there is pain and suffering in your life, or even if you've transcended pain and you're on the spiritual path and you've made strides, but you still feel there's a lack of wholeness, in this video, I'm going to cover one of the most pivotal and most important books that I came across in my spiritual journey of awakening that helped me transcend worldly limitations. Not only that, but abide in a sense of fullness and oneness. Helped me overcome 20 years of drug and alcohol addiction to experience a richness and fullness of life that I didn't even know what was possible. What's up, everybody? Brian again here, your spiritual guru extraordinaire. No, I'm no guru. I'm just a lifelong journalist in long-term recovery, and I'm creating this content in hopes of inspiring others to take the next step on the spiritual path, to grow spiritually, to cultivate self-awareness, and live in a state of freedom and fullness in which we are able to essentially manifest our needs. Maybe not what we want, what the world tells us we need, but what we need for our spiritual development and growth. This book here is a spiritual classic. If you clicked on the link, you probably already know about Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, and the amazing work he has done here on earth in this awakening to help people transcend the ego, to recognize the pain body, to abide in a sense of presence. What a lot of people don't realize about Eckhart Tolle's teaching, one of the things that he describes in this timeless state of being in the present moment, being in presence, is that he's describing a state of timelessness, where time and space are essentially tools that allow the ego to evolve spiritually. When they are no longer necessary, time dissolves. You're in a state of oneness, of blissfulness. The present moment, life, it opens wide up. Everything becomes luminous and bright. We are freed from the chains of the ego to such an extent that basically what I found personally, after many, many years in recovery and on the spiritual path, is that everything I was seeking in drugs and alcohol, everything I was seeking in status, in worldly possessions, in accomplishments, whatever it may be, external recognition, all of that could only be found in higher levels of spiritual development. So before we get started, I would love it for you if you would click that like and subscribe button. Follow me for more content like this. I love you all. I'm doing this as a part to play my role in this spiritual awakening process. There are essentially 5 core pillars to this teaching, and I want to go over each of these. First, I want to say Eckhart Tolle, I love it in the beginning. The personal touch of how he describes his enlightenment is that he was suffering from severe bouts of depression, and he was up late one night and the darkness was just bearing down on him, and he had a thought that occurred to him that I don't know how much longer I can live with myself. Okay, that's an interesting question. He noticed that's kind of a funny question, as if there's 2 of me. There is this separate I, and then there is this self that I have to live with, as if there's 2 of me. And then the epiphany hit him. What if only one of them was real? This epiphany proved to be the enlightening moment, the instant enlightenment. Somebody who wasn't even on the spiritual path, who had a degree of purity of mind, that he asked one of the most fundamental questions that we can ask as sentient beings in the universe. Is sort of like, who am I? And he was immediately pulled into this void, and when he emerged, the world was luminous and bright. It was as if he is seeing it from a whole new perspective, a world he had never seen before. I think a lot of us can relate to that moment of ego transcendence. Some people use plant medicine. Others spend years disciplining themselves on the spiritual path, yoga, breath work. I've done it all. But ultimately, he points to a core truth here, that enlightenment cannot be attained until this understanding is attained, and that is, the ego isn't real. This is a dream. As long as the ego is taken to be real, and it tries to attain enlightenment like it's some sort of self-improvement, it's going to be, we're spinning our wheels, because the mind isn't real. It's a bubble floating on an infinite sea of consciousness. The self, the transcendent self that penetrates every atom in this universe, that is you and I, that dwells within us, that alone is real. That is the unchanging reality on which our lives are drawn out, from birth to death to rebirth. And that is the reason for the repeated cycle of birth and death, of reincarnation. It's that we take the individual to be real. And as long as we hold this core belief that the ego is real, we're going to be spinning our wheels. Awareness, free and independent, is the cause of the performance of everything. Consciousness, the substratum that penetrates this entire universe, that alone is real. And you are that, and I am that. And realizing that is the instant enlightenment moment that we're looking for. It's the biggest aha moment the soul could ever encounter, is because we realize that we have been bombarded with omniscience, omnipotence. And it has never been able to pierce our mind's conceptions. So now, without further ado, in this next part, I'm going to go over the 5 core tenets of Eckhart Tolle's teachings and how it transformed my life and how it's transformed the lives of millions of others to live freely, man. Look at this beautiful, life we live. It's a beautiful day out here in Ohio. The sun's out. It's a little hot, but you know what? Hot and cold, these are preferences of the mind. And ultimately, we realize that life is a dream. Core tenet number 1, ego transcendence. So our sense of self is tied to a limited form. As we know, God alone is real. But as long as our sense of self is bound to the ego, we suffer. And our experience of the ego, is based on our past experiences and our future projections, neither of which are real. The past is gone. The future is gone. There isn't here yet. It's a fictition of the mind. We're actually creating our own reality and driving forth the dream. But all there is now. You watching this now, there's no separation between you and I. In this vast infinite universe, there is only this present moment. And this ego transcendence that he talks about is through observing the mechanisms of the ego. We've reached a point of development. We can laugh at the stuff our minds cook up. And the purer our minds become, the more we are prone to epiphanies, the more we can access higher consciousness for guidance, and the more we can transcend the ego. But as I stated before, ultimately the ego isn't real. It's a construct. It's a bundle of conditioned patterns, the conditioned body that can be reprogrammed, programmed, but enlightenment is an intense capacity for self-awareness. Other great spiritual masters of the ages in India have realized the self through direct experience, through self-inquiry, which is an intense capacity for self-awareness on a daily basis, of removing the hooks that the world has put into us, into the ego, that our sense of I is this limited form, removing them and having an intense capacity for self-awareness. There's a samadhi arises, a blissful, joyful state when we realize that this whole universe is penetrated by awareness, by consciousness, and we are that, and everyone else is an aspect of us. Another really big concept Tolle introduced in his work is the pain body. And this is a huge one. The pain body is an insentient form of consciousness. In the Eastern traditions, they would describe it as our past samskaras, our impressions that arise. They cause us to identify with the ego, cause us to react or act in ways that keep the pain body alive. And one thing he emphasizes through the core of all of his teachings, and to dissolve the pain body, is to be aware of it, to be aware when it rises. It's this sort of like learning your internal mechanisms to such a degree that they don't trigger you, they don't cause a reaction, they don't cause identification, and we can transcend them. So the pain body is one of the novel ideas that he introduced. But again, I said in Eastern traditions, these would be known as vasanas, karmic imprints from our past experiences, decisions we've made along this journey and in previous journeys, and our samskaras, which are deep subconscious impressions that govern our whole interpretation and our whole experience. Is that until we become conscious of the unconscious, that's Carl Jung, until we become conscious of the unconscious, it will dictate our lives and we will call it fate. So dissolving the pain body is a huge step towards higher levels of evolution and development. The third core concept, again, here is acceptance of the present moment. Whatever's arising, we observe it without judgment. These concepts kind of interlock and or they're kind of interrelated, we should say. But the acceptance of the present moment and not judging it and responding to life consciously. He also, along with other teachers, has introduced this concept of becoming conscious. And that's another way of saying becoming self-aware, becoming aware of awareness, becoming aware of ourselves and our inner mechanisms, and abiding in the present moment. Because ultimately the instant enlightenment he describes is a dissolution of time. That time is a construct, a measurement of decay. It's not ultimately real. Even science is proving this, that time is an illusion, time is relative. And what he encourages is his intense presence. If you watch him, he's huge on the internet. Everybody knows who Eckhart Tolle is. But if you watch him, he's always intensely present. It's like he's meditating, even now. Even now, as I watch this video, I'm observing myself, right? My awareness is, let's just say, for purposes of explanation, my awareness is behind me or above me, and I've objectified myself, and I'm observing the ego, and I'm observing the mind. Meanwhile, I'm seeking intuitive guidance. It's actually an internal seeking, because the world we experience is actually a hologram that we are projecting, that everyone is projecting. Everyone's experiencing their own unique reality, and that reality will unfold in a way that is most conducive to their spiritual evolution. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't evolving, so the universe will send you experiences and catalysts for growth. The idea is to recognize these, that everything is intelligently designed, that we are consciousness, we are an aspect of that formless ground of all being, that is unknowable, that is consciousness, that it's all one thing, and being present is indispensable. Tolle also talks about the I am state a great deal. And the I am state is a high degree of spiritual intelligence, but it's connecting to the deeper aspects of ourselves that allows us to feel joy. I mentioned this a minute ago, but the experience of joy, bliss, love, radiance, the luminosity of this world is very apparent when the mind is purified, when we are at a high capacity for self-awareness. We recognize pain and pleasure, like and dislikes, are two sides of the same coin. They're a package deal. We need to neutralize these if we wish to evolve, because as long as we're running away from pain and discomfort and running towards pleasure and fulfillment, we are out of balance. We are in a very enlightened state, because we still think that this world, one, is real, and two, that it can bring us lasting fulfillment. When spiritual maturity is realizing, no, the world is not real. It's a dream. Yes, I mean, it's experienceable as real, but it is not the source of lasting fulfillment. Identity is everything. Awareness, consciousness is plain and ordinary. It's everyone's experience. And so enlightenment is not a glorified state by the ego. The ego would like to keep it that way, to make you think that this is some huge accomplishment, that I've scaled this sacred mountain and now I'm one with God and everyone's gonna, whatever it may be. Enlightened beings laugh at this, because this is a childlike state of innocence. It's a return to a childlike state of innocence that not only Tolle, but Christ, Buddha, all the other masters will say this is a natural childlike state of joy, of you feel a sense of dharmic obligation to service to others, to helping others, to realizing oneness, abiding in oneness, removing the hooks of this world, and transcending our sense of self. What has helped me the most is just the manner in which he delivers these messages, the utter simplicity. You know, the presence of a master like this, or even their talks in a light vein, can be very illuminating, can be very, can trigger awakening in others. But at the same time, when you're at that high rate of a vibratory rate, you can also trigger unconscious people. Your light brings out the darkness in others. People are constantly projecting their negativity on you. So nothing, you know, and that's not for us to worry about. We do have to at times protect ourselves from deeply unconscious people. For me, having been raised in a religion that I now try not to be judgmental when I say has some very dark aspects to it that were, and I'm not going to get into that into this video, but just to say that I've had to heal that as well and keep my distance, hold from religious people. But this can be done without making them into an enemy. Because back to that ego transcendence, the ego would rather be right than be happy. So self-awareness isn't for everybody, but it is for people who would rather be happy than right, okay? It is for people who are wanting to grow, who are willing to look at their own bullshit, who are willing to look at these internal mechanisms that are driving forth our experience. Because I'm telling you, man, life, the reality we experience is a mirror. We receive a direct reflection of who we are being. And I had to get hip with this, man. I was drugged through the most severe spiritual darkness, self-imposed, and he talks about this in his writings as well. And that's another reason it resonates with me and a lot of people, is that when you're living a nightmare, it's more likely to trigger an awakening. An awakening being asking the most fundamental questions that we as sentient beings in this universe can ask, which is, who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? You know, what is this vast universe? What is existence? Existence is consciousness. You will never find fulfillment going outwards. You know, and one of his books, the other books, which was amazing, which is A New Earth, he gives a parable of the man begging at the city gates. You got a beggar sitting at the city gates, and he's sitting on a chest, and he's begging for change as people enter. And one of the people passing by stops and says, "What's in the chest that you're sitting on?" Right? The beggar said, "Oh, nothing. It's just an old chest. I'm just sitting on it. Do you have any change? I need some change." And the man insists, "Well, let's have a look in the chest." And the man sitting on the chest, the bum, the beggar, was reluctant at first. But eventually they open it up, and what they discover in this chest was a pot of gold. And Eckhart Tolle draws upon this metaphor, this analogy, as we are that beggar. Until we have discovered the depths of our being and who we truly are, we are that beggar. And in any case, I hope this video helps. I love you all. We are all on this spiritual journey together. Enlightenment is not some grand and glorious state. We do need to continue evolving, removing the hooks of this world, and abiding in truth. When we abide in truth, the world becomes luminous, full of possibilities. We're less inclined to addiction. We have that feeling of wholeness that becomes more of a constant companion. All right? That's what I wish for you in this video. Be sure to, I hope this helps. Be sure to smash that like and subscribe button. I love you all. Have a wonderful day.